Do you want me to do it again? Okay, we've resolved to move into the committee of the whole. First up, our delegation 5.1 is the Sooke Food Bank update. Perfect. So our numbers are growing. We are registering now 6 to 7 families a week, which I used to worry when we registered 7 families a month. So now it's just beyond. Our hunger count in March had us at 748 people registered, and those numbers from March aren't even relevant. We have hundreds more clients since then. Some good things, though, that are happening is that we do have the Ministry of Social Services and Housing. They come every week and are there for a couple of hours, and they can even print checks right from the trunk of their car to help people immediately without having to go into town or try and get on a phone or a computer or whatever. They're just there ready to help. And we have Brain Injury Victoria. And finally, after since 2019, we lost our medical van. And now we will have a nurse again starting this Thursday, and she'll be there every week, and she'll be there all day. She can help set up like specialist appointments and just really help people navigate the system, and she can clean wounds and do that kind of stuff. So we're really excited about that. We did 192 children back to school backpacks this year. And really, I mean, do you have questions? It's same stuff we've been doing. I've been, 13 years I've been coming, and here we are. Problems just gotten worse. We need a building. I really want to give you guys the opportunity to be a part of the Sooke Food Bank buildings. I'm going to come looking for significant money, and I know nobody has it and all that kind of stuff, but really Sooke's one of the only communities that isn't invested in the actual project, the building. Like we get grants from you, or I'm on the, what do we call it? Thank you, service agreement. But realistically, like the service agreement's small. We're going to almost spend just about $400,000 this year by the time Christmas is done. So any questions?
I'll turn it over to council. Councilor Bettis.
No, I don't really have any questions because, as you know, I'm on the board of directors of the food bank. But I guess I'd just like to hear a little bit more about the physical space that you're using now. And I understand that you're required to, in a case of emergency, have enough food on hand to feed 5,000 people for I don't know how many days. Could you? Yeah.
I can do water for 2 weeks. Ideally, if we can have enough food always on hand for a week for 5,000 people, we will get assistance. Food Banks BC gets food to everywhere, but it's nice to know if those bridges go out, we can look after ourselves.
Oh, you're good for it. You're all right now, but where do you store all that food?
Well, we have it everywhere. I've got storage containers everywhere. We really like to spend our money on Sooke, so we store food in Sooke. Ideally, I'd like to have a sea can up in Port Renfrew and one at Beecher Bay. So it's a logistical nightmare. We use the whole basement of the community hall when we're open, but then when we're not, we have to put all that food away. So we have a big cage that's in the downstairs part of the hall, the basement section. And then if you go to the very back of the basement section, there's a little room up the ramp. And so we have that, and then our office. And then I use Willie's room, or well, the janitor room. I'm not supposed to. I have stuff everywhere I'm not supposed to.
And my understanding is the Sooke Community Association allows you to be there free.
Oh, yes. Yeah. We don't pay for that.
I just want to get a plug in for them because.
Oh, they're wonderful.
Yeah.
They really are. And the fact that really we are only supposed to be there 3 days a month. That's unrealistic. I'm there every day. We have a day that we've got to set up. We've got food orders coming in. So truly, they're very gracious with giving us that space and not really, because we break the rules all over the place for the amount of space I'm supposed to have, the amount of time we're supposed to use it. And realistically, with our numbers going up, like we served the first week, we're supposed to be taking the last client in at 2:30 and then being out of there by 3. The first week we served 160 people, households. We didn't get out of there until 4 o'clock. We had the numbers down. People you wait about 2 hours. Once we're open and going, it's not quick. So we've recently started a food bank where I'm taking, and Al's graciously was helping. We take the food bank down to Sooke Shelter. So then that frees up about 30 to 40 hampers that aren't going to stand in that lineup. I've got all our big families where I'm arranging to meet them on different days of the week, so I don't have them standing for a long period of time. Beecher Bay, we've got them doing their own food bank. So those people, because there's no bus service in Beecher Bay, they got a 2-time-a-day bus, like logistically, right, for people. So I'm trying to ease the pressure on us, but I can't get any answers as to who's moving in when. Last year, I would have told you that 1/3 of the new people are coming to the food bank. And right now I'm at, like, if you're new to Sooke, we've probably met. especially if you're going into the affordable housing, and it's just to get yourself started, right? So the numbers are growing. I try to ask, when are they going to fill those buildings? When will Drennan open? Nobody will tell me. I just look at them though and I cringe, because even if it is just a third of those people coming in, that's an influx of a lot of families. And it's putting a lot of pressure on us.
Councilor Bateman.
Kim, for your work and your team's work, and
Thank
this
you.
has been going on for a long time. You clearly are continuing to find creative solutions all over the place while being totally overwhelmed. So you're not alone in Canada.
Thank you.
I understand it's like 60% increase since the pandemic.
Yeah.
hit. And that you're seeing a lot of people with incomes.
Oh, do you know, and it's our donors that would once a year donate $100 or $500, right? Those people now are our clients. They don't have that extra money with the gas increase, price of food, everything going up. Those people are now our clients. They might not be every month, but if the hydro bills comes in, it's a little bit high, they're our client, or someone needs a tire or whatever. They will be our client. And so that's it, and it's just hard, I guess, for just for your spirit, right? To watch these people come in and have to counsel them as I'm looking at them, telling them it's going to be okay. And I don't even believe myself, like, right? I don't know.
Okay. So we're not alone in this. What is Food Banks Canada and Food Banks BC doing to advocate? What would be the magic bullet solution?
For me, honestly, if I could say, please go out, lose the word affordable in our assisted housing. If you can afford housing, you're in market housing, right? That's real life. Low income housing is because we need that. And I think what we really need to advocate for, if we want to see progress, is 40-hour work weeks. Let's have people really, a single mother should not have to have 2 jobs to make 40 hours because people don't want to pay benefits because it's not a great job. Things like that. Housing, if we knew that we had our house, then we could easier go out and find help for our mental health or our addictions or whatever. So I don't know. I just know those 2 things go hand in hand. People need to make a living wage.
Yeah.
And people need to have housing, guaranteed housing.
Absolutely.
Right?
Okay.
Then probably they wouldn't need food banks. Or we would just be a conduit to help people to other help, right? Yeah.
Of course, a lot of people, not a lot of people pay, they have to cover their rent first foremost.
Yeah.
So they're going hungry, or they're buying non-nutritious food.
Oh, garbage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
garbage is the word. Yeah. So back just quickly, your $400,000 annual operating budget.
I believe this year, by the end of the year, that's what we will have been close to spending. Yes.
So Sooke contributes about 10% of that. I think we were up to 35,000.
I think so. Yeah. But some of that is earmarked for Christmas,
Right.
which is a little bit
Yes,
different,
okay.
but yeah.
So our service agreement comes in at about 27,000, and you asked this year in particular to just take a 1-year agreement
Yes.
so that you could really get.
Get
will you
my
come
numbers
back to
straight.
us with a firm ask.
Oh,
on
yes.
A new number. You
Oh,
will.
you know, I will.
Okay, good. All right, that's it from me. Thank you.
I'm more curious about your permanent building.
Okay.
I keep on hearing rumors.
The rumor.
Rumors. I was wondering if there's any you might want to share that was more.
Okay. Well, Roy Anderson's with me and he could, he's building stuff. That's his thing. But I will say that Randy Clarkson came and met with us today. So we're starting on the drawing process and we're really excited. Really excited.
And I guess the next question that follows that is obviously building permits, that sort of thing. That's actually more the districts where we can help.
Right.
Is there anything that you're hoping for as far as that goes?
Well, I hope that I'm not going to get stuck in perpetual building permit hell when I go through, because I'd rather ask for forgiveness than permission anyway. You guys all know me. I'm not coming like, I'm not going to sneak in, but I'm 2 years behind on this building that we should have had a long time ago, right? And I can't wait. And I can't have my stuff get lost. I can't, I just need to know that when I get to this part, that it'll be really just simple, right? I'll do all the tricks you want, everything you want. I just really need it to go really simple. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you heard Councillor Bateman just now, but he just mentioned the permissive tax exemption.
Okay.
So that's a piece as well that we can look at when the building comes to fruition.
Excellent.
Please keep us posted so that we can ensure that it's a high priority piece that goes through as smoothly as possible.
Excellent.
And then you'd mentioned the storage unit in Port Renfrew.
Yeah.
And what was the second location?
So I would like to get one in Beecher Bay as well. So I will approach CRD. I want to get this.
You read my mind.
Yeah. So I will. I mean, I go to CRD once a year. I apply. They usually give me about $1,000 a year, but I'm going to go and do a presentation for them, and really they have to see we're servicing Jordan River, Shirley, Otter Point, Port Renfrew, East Sooke, parts of Machosen, because that's a mental health thing, right? Can your worker get you into Goldstream Food Bank, or can your worker get you into Sooke? Right. So it's all, we're all connected, but certainly they could be helping a lot more than they do.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you have locations for those storage containers?
No, not yet.
Okay.
I am just winging it.
When you go, I would love if you could send us an invitation to join you as well.
Excellent.
So then we can share how we're supporting and the impact that it has and be there as well. And if there's something that we can work together with the CRD, we would love to have that opportunity.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Go ahead, Councillor Meadows.
If you just, again, a little bit of elaboration, Anderson Construction is certainly very involved in it, same with Randy Clarkson, but could you just elaborate a little bit about where it is, what it is that you're hoping for?
Okay.
Because I mean, I know, but there's maybe people here don't, and this is goes out over the air. So what is your hopes and dreams when it comes to this? It's on the Baptist property.
Yeah, it's in front of the Grace Gardens. There's that one chunk of property that isn't farmable, and it's kind of useless. So they've offered it to us. And it would be roughly about 4,000 square feet is what we're looking at, still with clients outside and our service providers outside, but new working space. And really, it would give us the opportunity to open 7 days a week, where you wouldn't have the lineups, because not everybody's rushing to get in on a Thursday. I'd like to be able to open one evening a week. We have a lot of working people that I'm meeting at all different times, where if we could just be open one evening a week for a couple hours, that would eliminate that problem. And it would be a safety building for when, or if, God forbid, anything happens in our community.
I meant to also ask you, how are you coping with volunteer burnout?
So we're really lucky, because passionate people really come to the food bank. So we have ebb and flow like everything else. I think at the height of COVID, when it was really like apparent how unprepared we are for an emergency, I think that was probably the worst, because it really put into light, if something, God forbid, was to happen out here, we're not ready. We can think we're ready. We're not. And so I think not much in the words of burnout, but that I'm over worried about getting things done. Let's get the building done, get the sea cans out at the other area. And then we can just provide food, because really that's what I started out doing. Just wanted to come and volunteer at the food bank.
And here you are.
And here I am.
And also it will limit you from, like you were saying, meeting people multiple times in the evening. Then you can just start to come back a little bit for yourself too.
Yeah.
Councillor Lajeunesse, go ahead.
Yeah, hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, I just not knowing anything about what the building looks like, other than it's 4,000 square feet. Is that a single story building? The reason I'm asking is that I'm just wondering if there may be other sources of funding available if you were to provide an affordable housing component, say on a second floor.
It is going to be a 2-story building. We don't want to be landlords. However, we will rent out office space, and we are looking at, we didn't want to announce it yet, but perhaps a radio station to be upstairs, a small community radio station. So
Interesting.
to get into that whole building houses, and that's not our bag. We're, well, we can have offices for the ministry and different help groups like that.
Okay.
Councillor St. Pierre.
I just wanted to mention, I did work for an organization that provided navigation services in the downtown east side. And we didn't do food, we did employment, but it's really kind of, doesn't matter where you start.
Yeah.
People show up with needs, and I'm hoping that, I'm sure that as you're looking at this building, you're looking at space potentially to have that navigation component. And I'm thrilled at the model that you're looking at, or that I guess I'm glimpsing.
You should come and see us on a Thursday, Tony, because I think you'd be quite surprised. Like there's not much you could come needing that we're not going to fulfill that need at the food bank, right down to a haircut.
I saw that with a haircut.
Yeah.
I saw that with a haircut. So
and WorkLink does come. So we have WorkLink come, the Brain Injury Society, Ministry of Social Services and Housing, plus our pet food bank, the Sooke Pet Food Bank, which have been invaluable. And then we have our own free table, and truly any service provider that's approached us to come and be in the parking lot, we always give them a chance to come out and see what we do and see if our clients can get any value.
It's a great model.
Thank you.
Thank you so much again. It's so appreciated.
Thank you. Done?
Okay, we'll move on to something that is very relevant. 5.2 Sooke Region Mental Health Addictions and Substance Use Report.
If it's possible to just make a little space in case we go more than 5 minutes, is that okay? Okay, thank you. I just want to give props to this food bank because they've supported this work as well that I'm going to report on. So my name is Hermione Jafaris. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm an uninvited settler here on Sauk Nation territories. And I was on this Sooke Community Health Network board for about 6 or 7 years, and I'm currently on the committee. And I put this report together with quite a lot of help and support from the team there, and I'm here to summarize it for you. I hope that you've had the opportunity to read either the full report or the short report. If you haven't, I encourage you to have a look. Oh, right, I'm in control. All right. So this acknowledgement of territory, and also the goal of Searchin is to create as much wellness in our communities as possible. Okay, so I'll go back to timeline. So in 2019, it was published that Sooke was experiencing higher rates of depression and anxiety than other communities in BC. And with that information, the Searchin board decided to look for funding to try and do a little bit of investigation into this and find out more, and also look at what the needs and the gaps are in our community. So the United Way and the District of Sooke provided funding, and the service provider interview survey was rolled out. Unfortunately, partway into that process, COVID arrived, and Searchin had to put that project on hold and get involved with the homeless situation and getting the Sooke shelter up and going. So in 2022, when people were starting to sort of settle back into a more regular life, we decided that it was time to get it going again. And we also developed and added a community member survey. So in the end, 46 surveys were completed with service providers and agencies, and 68 were completed with community members. 91% of those identified themselves as Sooke residents. The rest were either former Sooke residents or having a loved one living in Sooke. So when we asked community members what they were looking for, or what the gaps were in their minds, you can see the breakdown here. 62% were looking for counseling or therapy. 59% wanted help with a mental health diagnosis. And then, as you can see, the further breakdown, 33% were experiencing suicidal ideation, which I think is of real concern. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about some of the findings with community members, and then I'll talk about some of our recommendations. So free or sliding scale, easy to access counseling and mental health services are the greatest priority of our community, including crisis intervention, suicide prevention, grief and loss support, and diagnostic services. We also hope to have services that are flexible and cover the range in the continuum of care. And we also, in this report, you'll see that we had some special attention to seniors and to youth because of their special needs and because of the impacts of COVID, and particularly on those two communities. The youth in the South Island are not doing great and could do with as much support as possible. And then also public awareness. So over half of the people that I spoke to who are community members, over half of them had lived here for 10 years or more. So it's not a lack of familiarity with services that people are not knowing where the services are. They don't know where to look. They don't know how to proceed with that. And in many cases, because of their own mental health or circumstances in their family, they are lacking in either skill or capacity to reach out. So these are some of the obstacles. I'm sure you're aware of all of these. Traveling outside of Sooke can be very difficult. If you think about somebody traveling from Port Renfrew, for example, East Sooke, all of those communities, all the way down, it can be very challenging to attend services. A lot of the services that people need to access are not being offered in Sooke. Some of them that are being offered in the CRD, those agencies are primarily based in Victoria, and they just do not have the capacity to come out here or not able to. So even though there's funding in place for our community, it may be that those services are not being provided. People are a bit worried about their confidentiality and about stigma. And also, one of the things I wanted to bring your attention to is that in Sooke, healthcare is the leading employment here, and construction is the fourth in that list, I believe. And both of those communities of people are at higher risk for depression and anxiety. And people who work in the trades are at exceptionally high risk for overdose deaths and overdose impacts. Just under half of the people who were employed at the time of an overdose death, and this is stats from last year, were working in the trades or transport. So we have some folks here in our community that we need to be paying attention to as well in terms of their needs. And then, of course, we're also a community that holds 3 different First Nation communities, and the impacts of colonization and intergenerational trauma, again, is not to be underestimated. And so that's another area that I think we need to be looking at. So when I talk to service providers, I haven't got a lot of slides on this because basically across the board, people were saying they're underfunded, they're understaffed. The services that they can offer are often limited in hours or days. I think 100% of the service providers I spoke with, there's some kind of criteria for people to meet to be able to access services. So that makes it difficult as well. all of the substance use services are outside of Sooke, or almost all of them. We have one doctor who is taking the lead on this, and I believe he's training somebody, but he's also looking at retirement if he hasn't already. The AVI outreach worker that used to come out has lost funding, so they're not able to come out anymore. So, you know, when you look at people's addictions in terms of substances and alcohol, you know, detox is dangerous, and people do need to have good care and follow-up care while they're in that process. So, I mean, there's a long list. I'm sure you're aware of some of these. These have been discussed before. So in terms of some emergency mental health response, medical detox and inpatient treatment, funding to increase peer-to-peer support models and peer navigation systems. So yeah, aligned with what the food bank folks are looking for. I think there could be a hub where peer-to-peer support services happen. Outreach to otherwise isolated communities. Some communities, people don't have transportation. They may not have good internet access or be able to afford internet or, you know, technology, and that those folks need to be considered about how we reach them and how we care for them. And then also public awareness campaigns that, you know, bring these topics into the light and reduce stigma and fear around coming forward. Oops. Oh, so low barrier access to safe supply, opiate agonist treatment, and other treatment protocols that are all, you know, have evidence to back up that they are best practices. And also affiliated services. So when you're thinking about substance use disorders, you may not be thinking about HIV, Hep C, brain injury, etc., liver disease, but all of those things are important to consider. And if you read the account, I did 2 examples from community members that were willing to share their stories. In one case, the mom was, you know, had a young son who was very impacted by mental health and substance use, but he had had multiple brain concussions as a kid at school. And so even that, like how to assess for brain injury, raising awareness around those sorts of things that are connected. The other thing that has been suggested by addiction medicine specialists is that pharmacists and nurse practitioners and nurses be approved to get their certification so that they can also prescribe and follow patients. Oh, that went quicker than I thought. I think I skipped a slide, but anyways, I'm happy to answer any questions, and Christine is here as the ED of Search, and so she's probably also able to speak to this.
Thank you so much. Anyone from council have any questions? Go ahead, Councilor Bredos.
I should call Madam Chair. She doesn't like your worship.
Yeah.
I just on this, you mentioned grief counseling. How does that work with you said a sliding scale? So if somebody's, I'm asking this question because my wife's the hospice coordinator for the community.
Yeah.
And they have a counselor that they hire.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's inadequate for the numbers. If somebody was going through, well, of course, grief counseling, they need for hospice. Is it a sliding scale? It's not all free, is it?
I'm not no, I think hospice, a lot of the support and counseling that happens in hospice downtown anyways is free, but there's lots of different ways to approach this. So there's peer-to-peer support that could happen. There's you know, sliding scale in terms, like if you look at one of the Cedar Tree, a big counseling organization here, they use students that are very, very close to having their experience. They know what they're doing, and they offer sessions for $25 an hour. Most people cannot afford counseling. So if you think about the barriers that people experience to mental health and wellness, often, unfortunately, it is those people who are at greatest need, living with a diagnosis or unhoused or, underemployed, those sorts of things, working without benefits. I don't have benefits right now. If I went into a mental health emergency and needed some counseling, I'd be in, real trouble, unless I could find a counselor that offers a sliding scale that can match my income level. So there's lots of different ways of doing it. And I think it's just, I don't think that there's a lack of creativity and good ideas. There's just a lack of money and a lack of will, I think, sometimes. The other thing with funding is that so often the funding cycles are short-term and it's a lot of work to make a funding application. It can take hours and hours and hours to do, and to do it well. If you're lucky enough to be funded, then you may be funded for 2, 3, if you're lucky, maybe up to 5 years. But that's just time enough to establish a place, build relationship in the community, start serving the community that you're supposed to serve. And then the funding runs out and the program dissolves. And this happens again and again and again. And not only is that a detriment in terms of employing people, a lot of people don't want to work in this field because they see that the funding, is unstable, that agencies come and go. There's a high burnout. People aren't getting the support and care that they need in this work. And also, you're burning for people who have experienced trauma, further, like you need to practice in a trauma-informed, safe way. And so, creating a place, a space for somebody and then shutting it down 3 years later when they're finally starting to build relationship, trust, maybe making some changes in their lives is unethical and not trauma-informed.
I guess I'm still a little confused because sort of when you first mentioned it, it's like you offer counseling services, but I'm not so sure you do. If somebody came to you, let's say I made a reference to someone and says, well, look, I'm really having a hard time over this grief, and I gave you your number, then you would just research possible places where they can go to get rather you don't have a counselor on staff or at your beckoning call.
No. I mean, okay. I'm volunteering on the search and committee.
Okay.
My background, my work experience is in this field, but no, I mean, this is about making referrals and remembering as well that there's huge wait lists everywhere people are going. If you need to, there's I did miss this. Oh, well, and so there's no transport north of Kemp Lake. The East Sooke and Otter Point bus only run 4 times a day. Lots of people can't afford to run a vehicle. And as we know, hitchhiking, particularly for women in this region, is very unsafe. So, people get stuck. They get stuck. I spoke to somebody who lives in a community, like a lot of people in the house, so they can afford it. We were talking about whether he, could have one of the things with COVID that has been an improvement for some people is the ability to connect online and have services given to you online. But if you don't have internet, you don't know how to use the technology, or you can't afford a computer, that's a barrier. For this fellow, he doesn't have privacy, so that's a barrier. And he does have a vehicle, but if he doesn't have gas money, then he just misses his appointments. So, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So there are many pieces of the puzzle. Thank you. There are many pieces of the puzzle. And so like, for example, our office is looking at having exactly a navigation service. So facilitating the outreach and so forth. There is also the aspect of looking at transport and all these different elements that are barriers there. So now with our mental health committee, now that we have this report, we are reaching out to different services to look at, okay, how can we improve things in Sooke? So this is not stopping here. This report is a first step, which the district of Sooke gracefully contributed to financially. And thank you for your support on that. But now it's, okay, now we have to pull everything together. So Search and does have a mental health committee, and we're right now in the process of asking people who are relevant service providers to be part of that, so we can actually determine practical first steps and so forth. And I think we also do need some political support from this office with regards to pressuring the province and so forth, when we know that there's funding for services here and they're not reaching here, that is something that we have to really address. And I think we can have conversations around that. But it is a very big nut to crack. And unfortunately, it's just getting worse. Also, there's other aspects, I think, with regards to service provision in our community where we can look at preventative measures to, that we don't have that high anxiety, that we have higher anxiety here than the rest on average of the rest of the province. So looking at initiatives to look at preventative measures as well as, putting out fires. So it's a big effort that we have to pull ourselves together jointly. But again, addressing those service providers that have been promised to us that we need to get in here and we can't do on our own with the services that are presently available. And we're seeing as well, we're just sort of trying to catch up to the COVID issues. We're still at that length. We're not even addressing, I feel, the increasing needs that are just piling on. So I think that's also something that we have to be very aware of, that the service providers here in town, whether it's about mental health or food security or whatever it is, they're at that level that they're just trying to catch up from what was resulted from COVID. So again, we have to look bigger picture on this and then see in parallel the preventative measures that we can take on.
Thank you, Councillor St. Pierre.
Thank you very much for that. I like that big picture. So I'm going to look at big picture a little bit here. I think that certainly we need to look at where the funding is going astray. So funding that could be helping people in Sooke isn't helping people in Sooke, and obviously we need something for that. I know that Surgeon is working hard on the community health model and the community health center, which ideally would provide an anchor for a lot of this stuff. So I know that that's, if not squared away, at least there's a path that we're trying to follow. And obviously, you've got the support of our mayor and his council as far as that stuff goes, and we're advocating hard, or some people are better than others. Not all of us do all the advocacy work, but in terms of a big picture, my sense is that we're looking at, for example, the youth struggling in the South Island. I don't think it's the youth struggling in the South Island. I think it's the youth struggling. We have youth in the South Island, so they're struggling too. I think youth are struggling. And they're struggling with lack of hope that they'll ever afford a home, lack of hope that they'll ever have a decent ecosystem to live in. So there's a huge piece there where, if you want to look at the big picture, how do we actually, as a community, create hope where there's not a lot of hope necessarily anywhere? And unless we get some hope happening, I love the name of the Hope Center, by the way, I think it's just going to get worse. And the model that we're using, a professional model where we have to actually pay for professional services to actually provide connection and a lack of isolation and a helping hand and a friendly ear, we can't afford that. Our society can't afford that. We can't afford that for everyone. So I'm looking forward to those creative ideas in terms of how we actually generate hope, how we actually provide real hope, how we extend a hand so that people actually feel connected. Sooke is a very connected community. That's one place where we rock it. We have way more going than a lot of other places in terms of people connecting. Al working in the food bank, and everybody cares a whole lot. So that's a good basis to work on. But I feel like we really need to step back. And that big picture needs to include connection and hope. And I'm just kind of throwing that out there because I'm worried that we can hear a lot of doom and gloom, but unless we actually move in those directions, we'll definitely have doom and gloom.
Yeah, if I may comment on the statistics around, for example, with seniors, just already that they have daily social connectivity, it's like reducing your life or increasing your life expectancy as if you had quit a pack of cigarettes a day. So we're really aware of that aspect. So we're looking at those kind of opportunities, but I feel it's still small scale, and we're looking at how can we make this bigger and how can we making connections with exactly those who are particularly isolated. It's sort of like this vicious circle as well, right? You're sort of, okay, now this has happened to me, I feel down about it, and now I get depressed about it, and then I don't take care of myself, and then it just sort of spirals that way, and it's hard to reach exactly those people because they're the most isolated. So they've cut off their connections, And that is also very challenging. So I'm brainstorming very much with my colleagues. I was just at a meeting in Sydney this morning with the Better at Home and for the South Island, and exactly looking at the connectivity, how to reach exactly those who have isolated themselves, whether initially willingly because they wanted to be on their own and be independent, but then something has happened and then now they're stuck, right? And whether it's mental health or they've broken a hip or whatever it may be, there are a lot of those people that in situation, and then it just sort of spirals with the mental health as well, right? So now we're looking at programs around decluttering, for example. If we can get going into homes and helping people with their decluttering so that they don't feel so anxious anymore, and they feel that they can actually welcome people into their homes, because they're not right now, right? They're so all these different things. But again, it's these one-off grants for 50,000 max, and then you're done for, and then what? So there's a lot of ideas, and they cost money, and they cost money to run. So I get what you're saying, Councillor St. Pierre, that connection should be free, but I think nowadays with volunteerism is taking another shape. It's changing. Right. And then there's a lot of responsibility then put on to poorly paid coordinators to put together. And that's not a recipe for sustainability either. So, the links that were there before through, community connections is disappearing, whether it's, whether it's the religious aspect or whatever it is. So the modernity has changed, how things look and how volunteerism is done, and that community connectiveness, it's still there. I would say and I do agree with you that in Sooke it's really great, but there is a change taking place, and also with regards to many people feeling hopeless, and if they don't get their basic needs fulfilled, with regards to housing and food and everything else, they become more isolated, don't they? They're less community oriented because they have to take care of their family unit or themselves, and then that's where that is. So I think that the poverty around it is key, and so is having those conversations around that as well.
Just to add to that, the isolation at the same time as this influx of people. So when you look at the stats in the report around how quickly Port Renfrew is growing, how quickly Sooke's growing, we're already in a bit of a crisis in this area. It's only going to get worse if we're not prepared, as was reflected in the previous presenter around food security and housing security. So, I think that, the money that would get spent is as much around preventative services and long-term thinking as it is around trying to fill some of the holes that are happening right now. Save some folks from hardship.
Completely agree. And I didn't want to imply that connection should be free. I know that there's an idea that, everything should be volunteer and we don't pay for anything. That's not actually what I was suggesting. I was suggesting that because I do expect things to continue in this direction for some time, because we're going to have more people needing help, and because we're going to have more people isolated, the systems that we're using that are very expensive. We need to look at them, because we can't actually extend those out to everyone that's going to need help. And there's going to be a lot more people needing help. So it wasn't that it's free. It's just, how are we going to make this work? Because
it's not working.
It's not working.
No,
and it's not going to work even, it's not going to work even better.
No, we have to think differently.
So I'm looking at different ways of looking at things. And I know that we had a conversation, actually the two of us, where you mentioned decluttering. And I'm going to put this out for everybody at this point in time, because one of the things that I suggested at that time was starting a profitable business. Basically a community food hub type of thing, which I went to a conference and found out they were doing something very similar to that and was working very well. But what you could do is you could have something that looked a lot like Meals on Wheels, where people are delivering food, and where you potentially have locally sourced food, locally produced food that you sell to people. And that's actually a profit model that creates income to support the other services. But the people who deliver the food can also form that connection. So I think and I know this is another one of those stupid ideas that needs a lot of time and money before anything can happen, but
we're working on it.
Having said that, okay, we'll talk later.
No, we're working on it right now.
Okay.
I might actually get some funding for that too.
But I think
Yeah,
No, but Nick, I agree that we were looking at social enterprises, right? I think you need some starting money and it's not always easy to find. So you can find grants for it and have as a starting package, but then have it eventually as a sliding scale, or you have different kind of pricing models where indeed you can have these services. Unfortunately, right now with exactly, for example, our main Better at Home clients, the non-medical senior support in the home, they can't afford anything. So, but then, we pilot with them to see how it works, but then at the same time, we can build up the social enterprise. So that's very much something that we are exploring. Thank you.
Councillor Bateman.
yeah, thanks for this report. I find myself quite overwhelmed by it. I mean, I'm not a service provider, so my level of overwhelm is relatively mild, but you've come up though with very clear conclusions, recommendations on a whole series of fronts. You've identified stable, consistent long-term funding as absolutely critical. Now you stated earlier, Hermione, lack of money, lack of will. So when I look at the BC Ministry of Mental Health and Addictions, they don't entirely lack money because money is being distributed out for starter programs in their Pathway to Hope by 2030 vision. Now, when you look at that document, do you see answers to much of what we're seeing here?
I think I'm the wrong person to ask because I've worked most of my career in nonprofits and been at the mercy of funding, and haven't always had the support or I don't know. Go ahead and answer that, Christina.
You've been burned.
I don't want to say anything I'll regret, but just that, I'm the former manager of AVI Health Center, which was closed due to lack of funding. And, the whole West Shore is lacking in care and services. So I feel it's a sore spot for me. Please comment, Christine.
Thank you. I don't know. I've been doing this for 10 years here in Sooke and the Sooke region. And I feel like I was just, as I said at this meeting today, and it's sort of cyclical, it comes back again. So the same things I heard about 10 years ago, it's like, why is this coming up again? Why? I thought we dealt with this already. I thought we agreed. I thought, change in staffing and middle management. I don't know what it is, but it's really bizarre. So I'm the optimist. If not, then I wouldn't be in nonprofit working nonprofit. So you try to but it's this cobbling that's continuously being done. And I think I've forwarded this complaint to council before, but it's just this common, just putting these pieces together all the time and then hoping it will last out the year. And it's tiresome. It's tiresome. And so that's where, we have all the nonprofit sector, we have complained about this and we need continuity. Now already today, they were saying that they were going to have longer funding rounds. So now they're going to be 3 years instead of 1 or 2, in certain areas. So already that could be something. And hopefully that would also be, and I know mental health is, because mental health is so big and the fact that they made it's such a priority for government because they made a ministry out of it, but now they have to deliver. Right. So now, they have to come with their things and hopefully not have to put too many bureaucratic structures in place before that. So that's basically where we are. Yeah.
So we as a district do thank you, Christine, and for those frank, honest answers. Which I guess the message is the community really has to take action independently and keep doing what we can.
Well, we have to put pressures on the province.
Yes. So on that front, advocacy by this council, I would think that maybe a starting point would be to really identify those service providers who are funded to serve Sooke, but currently aren't due to lack of capacity. So could we get a list from you of those particular service providers that we can then write the ministry and say, what's up?
That's a.
Yeah, I think we can provide something like that in the next few months. So I just want to get this community, this mental health committee going, and
Yes.
then we will be able to map that out.
Okay.
We'll map out well, already Hermione's report has mapped out what is here. But we can give you that list from that report if that's, and synthesize it, but also identify these other issues that where they're just not reaching past the curves. Yeah, we will definitely do that.
Okay, now on the youth, there's so many demographics you work with, but youth, I understand we might have a shot at a foundry opening here in Sooke, which handles youth counseling on site and virtual.
Sorry, I was just going to respond. It's actually being looked at for Langford.
For
Langford.
Langford.
They're looking to put it in Langford, though it will be, in theory, serving the whole West Shore. Were you gonna say?
I think there is also from the Sooke service providers, they're pushing for a satellite out here in Sooke. Because
Say again.
a type of satellite, like a
Satellite.
hub and
Okay.
spoke kind of
Excellent.
solution, because
Okay.
it's not fair to the families to go to Langford. So they're pushing for that in the grant proposal that they're handing in right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, because every time there is a West Shore or Western communities collaboration, Sooke is often left on the side, and we do stand up for Sooke on that. So that is with this proposal, that's exactly the model we would like to put forward.
Yes, okay. Fine, I'll just close off. I have lots more, but Dana's waiting here. Under the this need for emergency immediate service and case treatment through this USTAT program and the assertive community treatment and psychiatric emergency services, is that handled through community paramedic, or where would these individuals be based and with who?
Most of them are primarily employed through Island Health and are based in Victoria. We have put in, or Searchin has put in money to look at possibly one of the mental health models of having a peer and a professional working together. I've forgotten what it's called. The one we just put in.
Pact.
The pact, yeah.
Want to describe
no,
that?
go ahead.
No, you know it better than me.
No, it's just a small team that can respond. But again, it's small, it's limited in a capacity and function. We're hoping that funding will come, and that's a step in the right direction, but with all of these, but yeah, all of those, all of the things that are recommended in there are possible. There's some really, I do want to say there's a lot of great work happening, and the people that are working hard are working really hard and putting their best into it. And lots of people commented on that in the report as well. But, like Nikki Loggins and others who have been in this field for a long time, they see where the gaps are as well and have contributed. So.
My final question, is the community health center urgent primary care center, is that a game changer for Sooke, in your opinion?
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, of course. I think it is. I think it's going to make a big difference for a lot of people. Will it be enough? Like when you look at in the application, how they break down how many hours that you're given for this piece or that piece. Will it be enough? No. But it's a good, of course, it's going to be a wonderful, welcome thing to have here, but it won't be enough.
Yeah.
And there's still no detox. There's still no, those kinds of services. There's still no, there's still lots of gaps in that regard. And I know that we have limited time, but I'm quite happy to talk to any of you at great length about these topics if you ever want to. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I see you, Councillor Lajeunesse. We're just going to go to Councillor Beddoes first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to get a little bit more about optimism, because, I heard you say you're always an optimist, as so am I, because I have seen some movement in the 6 years I've been sitting here. We have really pressed the province on a number of issues. One is this urgent healthcare. It may not encompass everything, but it is an improvement in a big way, as I see it. So there's some optimism there. And if we can get all these different things under one roof, it just makes it much easier. And you made a comment about people in the outlying areas may not have gas money. And we've been hit over the years with all this counseling and everything that's available and say, well, it's available in the Western communities. You're part of the Western communities, but it's in Langford. And you know, for you to take, well, not you personally, but for someone to go to an appointment and they don't have the gas and they have to beg for a bus pass, it's also half a day out of their life to go into Langford. This is my impression, because I've been doing this for 6 years now, is I think we finally got the province in some way to recognize that we're in a unique position out here. Even though we're part of the Western communities of the CRD, we are a little entity unto ourselves. And we're pushing that we can have more of those facilities out here because of the unique situation. I mean, if you're in Langford, there's bus service all over the place. And as you say here, Otter Point is twice a day if you've got the money to go. So I just want to say thank you for what you're doing, and do stay optimistic. There's a lot of things that we can get down about, but every time we make one change in the positive, that is one change that we didn't have before. So keep up your work. We're on your side here, and we are struck with money problems as anybody else, but we do get the ear of the province, especially at the UBCM. And we were just recently there, and I was very impressed with the ferocity of our mayor talking to the health and MOTI and all these others. A very good advocate, and there's been a lot of headway in the last few years that I've noticed. So don't give up hope. Keep doing what you need to do, but you have people on your side. So thanks for your presentation.
Councillor Lajeunesse.
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank you for the work that you're doing, because it is absolutely necessary. And I think just reading your report and listening to your presentation, you provide an essential service, and the cost of not doing what you're doing is far greater than the cost of supporting you. And I think every time I hear the premier speak these days, he speaks of the same problems that you're addressing very well by the sounds of things. And I think it will be easy for us to advocate and help you get some sustainable funding, I'm hoping, because these are problems that have emerged and have grown over recent years, and they need to be addressed sooner rather than later. And so thank you. You make us all proud to call Sooke home.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I also had a couple questions. One of your pieces in your report is getting the messaging out there for the resources that are available, so we can work on the advocacy issues with the province and the federal government. And we will do that. In terms of that connection or sharing the information, do you have a way that you particularly see that we can support you with that?
What do you have?
No, go ahead. I'll add it.
So, so getting the message out there. So there also is, to understand that there is a stigma around this. So there has to be some education piece, and we're willing to provide that. So we're going to work through our mental health committee to provide that messaging through our office, because we're getting some funding with regards to information navigation for everyone. So no matter what their situation, whatever it is, and that was also identified in the food security report, we have attained that. And so now we're setting up a system where exactly we will be hand-holding people that, because it's not enough just to say, go contact these people, go and talk, it's just, they're just beyond themselves. They can't do that. So sitting with them and actually doing it, having the phone on speakerphone and going through the motions and making sure they get the right resources, getting the things, making a plan for them and providing that support. So I think there our challenge is going to be informing people exactly about that service. So that's where I think this office could probably help out. And so that leading people in but we will be able to provide that navigation piece. And I think also that anti-stigma piece around this, and that everyone can get help for anything. It doesn't have to be necessarily mental health. It could be anything. So then hopefully that by having that open door policy, then they can, the mental health might not come out immediately.
Yeah.
But then eventually through trust, it will come out because they see we're actually helping them. So, and working, so I think that's a very important piece, and it's starting to help, actually. We're starting to notice things, they come through us through our free tax clinic, for example, and then we make them aware of, we have these other services, please come in, and like going to the food bank, having a booth there and letting the people know that we have these services, and especially through the tax clinic is a big one, right? Because then we think they haven't done their taxes in 10 years and now suddenly they get benefits through us and they think, we're this great people are helping them with something that's just, very basic, but then seeing that they gain their trust again through other things. So I think that piece is there, and I see Hermione has something else.
The other thing I would say, and I'm not actually sure what your capacity as mayor and council are, but there's things like December 1st is World AIDS Day. There's mental health days. There's hepatitis C world. There's things like that I think you could acknowledge, you could promote, you could talk about, make a statement about, just to say to the community, we as a council and mayor are aware of this, we acknowledge it, we care about you if you're that person impacted by this, that sort of thing. That could be something that would be potentially helpful. Maybe, like there's a lack of events and acknowledgement of some things like that. So I think it would be great.
Okay. Thank
I'm
you
sure-
so much. Yeah, go
I'm
ahead.
sure we'll come up with some other ideas as we go along.
Yeah, please.
We're
Yeah.
brainstorming. We're not only Councillor St. Pierre that brainstorms, we also brainstorm quite a lot. And again, there is a lot of creativity and willingness to look at other models. We look at different models elsewhere. I personally have lived in many different countries and many different continents, and I always bring those models in because we don't have to reinvent things. So there are many things that are already available. So also looking at that as a, capacity building based upon models that have succeeded. So, being fine about
We don't need more reports.
we don't need more
act.
reports. Yeah.
We know best practices. There's research all over the place saying what works and what doesn't work. And, let's just do it.
Yeah. We're ready to do things.
Great. Yeah, and please just share with us, because there's times where we are constricted by budget.
Yeah.
So we can do the advocacy pieces for that consistent long-term funding. But yeah, any of those ideas that you just shared now, keep sending them to us, because if we can help in these other pieces, it will hopefully build on.
Yeah, I think we'll even maybe prepare some kind of suggested plan as to how we can go forward as we look at Hermione's report, and then come with some strategic planning, and then include you in that process and consult with you if you're willing to do that. And then that can be part of a whole holistic piece.
We would love that.
Okay, great.
Yeah, thank you both so much.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, appreciate the opportunity.
I'm going to suggest we take 5 minutes. Sure. For a little break, so we'll come back at 2:14.
Do it. Oh.
I got one shot, so I'm gonna take advantage of it. Thank you so much. Bye. Okay. Moving on. We're going into 6.1 Financial Services Quarterly Report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to lead this one today. So today we're presenting the Financial Services IT and GIS second and third quarter report. I'll be representing the portion for financial services. Michael McDonald's here to represent the IT portion, and Mitchell Bate is here to present the GIS portion of the report. So this is a bit lengthier than other quarterly reports as we have combined two different quarters. Just to play catch up and also give you the most up-to-date information as we just finished the third quarter. So I'll dive right into some financial services highlights. In April, we completed the 2023 to 2027 operating and capital financial plan. This is the budget that we bring forward to council. Lots of work goes into it. And this one we had adopted in April. This collided with our year-end process as the audit was also taking place during the first week of April. And at that time, we are preparing financial statements, answering audit requests and providing audit samples. And then at the same time as we're putting the final touches on the financial plan. So the two worlds collided and it was a really busy month for us in finance. We presented at the same time, we presented the 2023 community grant applications to council. So this is another big item that we prep the applications, go back and forth with all the applicants for a couple of weeks leading up to the council presentation that happened in April. We completed the transition from checks to electronic funds transfer. So this is us moving into the digital world and paying people by paying our vendors by EFT and staff reimbursements as well. We completed all legislated financial reporting. So once the budget's completed and year end is complete, we're required to go online and provide all of our statistics of our financial information to the province. And there's a few different forms that we're required to reconcile in their format. And it could take a day or two to get the information polished and submitted. And at the same time, at the end of May, we begin the property tax season and we go in full swing into taxes for the month of May and June. Just further on in the report, I have some tax stats so we could talk further about property taxes and how the season went. If anyone does have any questions as I'm going through, just interrupt and I'm happy to pause for an answer. So reception. We received 1,300 plus phone calls in the first quarter, and we issued 7,227 tax notices. That's 37 notices sent to the US and 4 international. 3 of those international ones were to the UK. 1 is to Gibraltar. We have info emails received. We received slightly over 2,756 emails. And on annual compared to last year, that's just under 10,000. Invoices processed in the first quarter, 960, pre-authorized payments, 144. So that would be just our monthly ongoing bills that come out of like our bank automatically. So like your hydro and utility invoices that come and then we catch them up and expense them appropriately. Checks issued 315, EFTs 139. So we see in the following quarter that the checks issued goes down while EFT goes up, which is what we'd like to see eventually. Very minimal checks issued. So just moving into the third quarter here, July to September, our highlights for the finance department. We completed the 2023 property tax season. So the tax deadline I believe was July 4th this year. It's the first day following the stat holiday. We completed the second quarter financial reports, provided those in a presentation to council. We did training for the new auxiliary reception positions. So with the reception position, you'll see that we have 3 new faces at the front this year. That includes 2 full-time new general support clerks, and then 1 who is here on an auxiliary basis. So not as though our staff have left the organization. 3 of our staff have moved to other roles in the organization. 2 of them have taken permanent positions in other departments, and another one is filling in for the building department right now. So all of our staff are still here, and we've had to quickly find and recruit and train new people. So we have 3 new faces that we've been bringing up to speed and training and trying to essentially fill the gap in the organization from some of the turnover we've received. So we also, during the third quarter this year, we collected delinquent taxes. So this starts usually just after the tax season ends. We will start providing letters, phone calls, and contact with those that owe delinquent taxes. So that's the 3rd year. Start educating those people just on the process and what it means to have the 3rd year of taxes owed. So we do quite a bit of work leading up to the end of August on collecting the 3rd year of taxes. And eventually this year we did avoid the tax sale again. So the tax sale was avoided very narrowly at the last moment. We were in here to have the meeting, and we confirmed a payment basically in the moment before the sale was about to begin. It was right down to the minute where we had the payment in the bank, but we had to confirm which property it was for. We avoided the tax sale. We collected everything. The property owner had sent the payment, but had not notified us to let us know exactly what he sent and when he sent it. So lots of work on staff to just avoid the sale and collect the taxes. We did end up collecting the taxes for the Tingrotto property, which is the property on Otter Point Road. They paid the 3rd year, which includes the amount for the demolition that occurred 3 years ago. So we were quite relieved. We were really worried about that property heading into sale, and worked closely with the homeowner, the property owner, and he did pay ahead of the sale. Actually, we had a few days ahead of it, so we didn't have to worry about that one at the last minute.
Sorry, maybe I'll just interject one little fun side story to that with the last second, are we having a tax sale or not? There was quite a few people attending the tax sale because they thought that Otter Point property was going to be on the list. So once we kind of advised them, hey, that's not, there's only one property potentially left and that's not it. A bunch of them left, but a bunch of people actually stayed. And because we had the interest of time, we gave them a little like, if there was a property tax sale, how does this work? And so it was a good moment just to bond with like a different group of the community that was out specifically for one property, but then was able to kind of learn and understand how a tax sale works, and kind of they're like, so this isn't my retirement plan. I was like, probably not. And you probably will never end up with a house, but so it actually, turned out to be a interesting way to engage with a new group. There was about maybe 10 people or so that hung around, and we had a little Q&A session and filled the time that way. Anyways. Sorry.
That's okay. But yeah, we had a full house ready to go for the tax sale. So it was surprising that so many people were here to participate. And so the next thing is the annual permissive tax preparation. So we receive just the confirmation letters from each of those on the permissive tax exemption list. And we prepped that for council to review, which there was a little bit more legwork on that, just a lot of back and forth to collect information from Macola Housing this year, which ended up coming to council already. And you've read the first 3 readings on the bylaw. Going into the key stats for the 3rd quarter, just over 2,000 reception calls answered. We started with 42 properties. We didn't start with that, but we had 42 properties heading to tax sale as of August 14th. So that's the list that we start adding notes to and comments and start really tracking our collection efforts. So we add all the notes of when we call and who we talk to. One thing that has changed, and over 15 years that I've been doing this, is that you used to be able to look up phone numbers online or through a phone book. And then now it's really shifted to social media and finding people through Facebook, getting a name, confirming that they're in this area, and then sending a notice to say, hey, I'm so-and-so from the district. I'm looking to get in touch with you regarding this. Please give us a call. And that seems to be the best way to reach people now is just a direct message, because you can't find them otherwise. And we don't, we're missing, now that the province does homeowner grants, we're missing that bit of contact info that we would typically receive with the homeowner grants, where each time you submit a homeowner grant, we get your contact info. Now we're not receiving that any longer and don't have access to that information. So we have to look for other means to get property owners' phone numbers or emails. Invoices processed in the third quarter, just under 1,500, pre-authorized payments, 134, checks issued, 300, EFTs, 227, seeing the stat of checks going down, EFTs going up, which is what we hope to do more in the fourth quarter. Getting into some fun property tax stats here. The first slide, I'm just gonna bump ahead here. The first slide here is showing just the total properties by class. I find this interesting. So you can see the change between each of the numbers of properties. So you can see residential increasing each year. It's like typically our growth. It could be under the residential properties added. And then if you see the trend through property taxes for outstanding taxes, this is post the tax deadline, you could see that we are kind of back to closer to the 2020 numbers. Just keep in mind that delinquent amount of 332,000 includes roughly $200,000 that was for that particular property on Otter Point Road. So that is the delinquent amount of taxes is more in line with less than previous years. But you can see the trend that it seemed to be a little bit, the receivables were a little higher in 2022 than they would be. Actually, it's right in line with where they are last year. So it's not much has changed with total taxes owed, but we are a little bit less than 2020. So trending down from the post-COVID year. Total property, the total penalties posted, you can see has increased slightly, with the current amount of taxes just being 1.45 million opposed to 1.3 million in the prior year. So this next stat here on total eligible properties for the homeowner grant. So this is the single family residential homes and stratas. These are essentially residential properties with a home on it so that they are eligible to claim. And then the total homeowner grants claimed is stat below 4,275. I like to provide this number below here, which is the percentage of homeowner grants claimed compared to eligible properties. And that's 72%. It's an interesting stat, because then that would mean 18% of your homes are either secondary homes or investment properties. It's like give or take a few, because some people miss their homeowner grant and claim it the year afterwards, or just don't even pay attention to the program altogether. But it's kind of fun to track that year to year to see if there's more or less people owning secondary homes in your community. Total tax deferment seems to be going up, and that seems to be the trend in most communities now, that more people are becoming aware of the program and relying on it. This next slide here is our next quarter's focus to close out the year. We've already been well into 2024 budget preparation. We're working on an asset retirement obligation. No, this is a new accounting standard that's required, that'll come through on our financial statements. You'll see it on the statements in April or May when they come forward. This is a note that requires us to set up a liability for the retirement obligation of any risk to I guess, hazardous assets that we own. So for a good example is if there is asbestos in the building here, we have to provide an estimate of the cost to remediate that asbestos. So if it was roughly $400,000 to remove the asbestos in the attic here, we would have to account for that on our financial statements in a special disclosure note. So we're working on that with our auditors to build a note that they are happy with. We are having the interim audit in November, so that's when the auditors are on site. They'll be here for a day or two. They look at all the work that they can ahead of the year end. So it's a chance for us to get ahead of the audit, and then also for them to like dive into things that have already happened, so they get a little bit of a head start before they're here at the end of March, early April. We're going to continue with staff training and professional development. We had a procurement specialist come and do all staff training for the whole organization. We had a really nice half-day session in the chamber here where we had a procurement consultant who had a full career with the province just come and talk to staff about understanding essentially what procurement is, why we do it, and what are the regulations that we have to be bound to for purchases over a certain threshold, and just gave everyone a good solid understanding and something to think about when they're considering making purchases on behalf of the district. It was really valuable because we did a few case studies together and talked about just very relatable scenarios, and she walked us through each of those case studies. Felt that it was well received from staff. We have the third quarter financial report coming up that will be coming forward to council at one of the upcoming meetings, and a financial statement deep dive and review for council. I know this had been requested from the financial statements, usually come through in a very quick way because there's a lot of other important stuff going on. And we just want to take a moment to slow down and walk council through some of the different significant changes and things that you should be aware of, and any important ratios to kind of go forward with, especially with making decisions ahead of the 2024 budget. So that is it for me. Sorry, went a little bit longer than I anticipated. I'm going to pass it over to Michael here, is going to talk about the IT highlights. Sure. Is there any questions while we pause? Sure.
Go ahead, Councilor.
Do you want this?
Thank you, Madam Chair. When I was at UBCM, I got the 2023 annual general meeting for the Municipal Insurance Association. Did you want that, or do you get that? Do you care? I mean,
Sure. I don't get it. No.
well, here, I'll give it.
Yeah.
It's just gonna take up room in my briefcase. There you go.
Sure. Thank you.
Last questions. That's it.
So through you to staff.
Councilor Bateman. go ahead.
Councillor Bateman, through you to staff. Thank you. I always appreciate the slow down and walk us through. So thank you, Ms. Gray, for introducing these quarterly reports. They've been very helpful, and I look forward to more. Could I be clear that there's $400,000 in asbestos repair directly above us? Is that
Sorry,
correct,
no,
or was
that
the example?
was an example.
Okay.
So sorry, no, there isn't. That is a number that I had seen, but that isn't a true.
Okay,
That
that's
don't
possible.
No, you'll see a note come forward on the statements, which will identify each of the facilities and then the risk or the liability that we'll set up for each one. So no, please don't write that in.
Okay, good. Let's struck that off the list. And finally, the permissive tax exemption policy. Now, we introduced that back in 2002, and judging by our interesting conversations around this table lately, might that come under a review process at some point?
Through the chair, Councilor Bateman. It's definitely something we can look at if council would like us to bring that back for reconsideration, because I think what came up with McCullough for sure is like technically it doesn't fit within the policy and what council of the day back then said that they wanted to fund or not. So it might be timely for a review of it. It would definitely take a bunch of time and it'd be a standalone project, but if that's what council would like us to do for 2024, we could look into that for sure.
because it's interesting to me, and I didn't mention this, but when we had the chance the other week, you don't have, there's 100% permission exemption, and you can go down in incremental 50% or even less. Is that correct?
I believe so. I don't have everything in the policy memorized right now, but yeah, I believe council, it's basically, it's your permissive exemption. It's not a statutory mandatory exemption. So it would be up to council what level of exemption we would like to grant. For example, Steps of the Future, when they were on, didn't get 100% exemption. They got 97% based on some other situation that was going on at the time.
Yeah, I think currently everyone is getting 100%.
Correct.
So-
And that's usually the ask of most organizations would be, but it's definitely something that can be explored. Different percentages for different things is something that we could look into.
And surely every homeowner knows about the homeowner grant, but potentially not, you feel.
Well, as from experience, some people don't remember. And so like when it gets to the delinquent tax list, it's surprising if someone owes 3 years of taxes, like they haven't claimed their homeowner grants. So the first thing we'll do is we'll claim this year's and last year's grant with them. And that's with us even reminding them, and even if they've been on our list 2 years in a row, the same thing. So I think some people just neglect to like think about it.
Go ahead, Councillor St. Pierre.
Thank you very much. I just had a question about the tax deferrals, not the permissive tax exemption, but the actual deferrals. I realized all of a sudden that I didn't really understand how they worked, and how do they work in terms of actually the district collecting revenues if they're being deferred?
Sure. Through the chair to Councillor St. Pierre, the tax deferment works as it's essentially the province will pay your taxes on your behalf, and then they create a charge on your title. So it's just like a loan or a charge on your title. So they're lending you, but then they keep interest in the property. So if in the end, in 10 years, if the property sells, the taxes have to be cleared just like a mortgage would before the property can change title. So they will pay on behalf of all of those deferring so that we get our money on time. And then the homeowner just has the debt owed to the province. Thank you. You're welcome.
Councillor Lajeunesse.
Yeah, just a question on an entirely different topic. An idea that's been sort of rattling around in my head for quite a while is that, and I spoke with Ms. Gray about this, is having a workshop for local contractors on the district's procurement procedures, just so that they have a chance at applying for some of the RFPs as they go out. I'm not sure how to go about that, but we could bring it up with the possibly with the Sooke Builders Association and find out if there's an appetite from their side for doing something like that.
Through the chair to Councillor Lajeunesse. Yeah, that's totally possible. That it's with the consultant that we had do our procurement training can offer a course that's for external vendors and like in small towns as well, where like they're kind of starting from scratch with their understanding. So yeah, absolutely, we could offer something like that. I'll have to check with Rachel on how she would want the spending allocated to that, if it was through a council resolution, through the contingency, just if you're going to direct us to pay for some training on behalf of the community, or if we could just do it without having a resolution. But we can certainly look into that if it's something you want to do.
Yeah, I think there'd be some value in that.
There's a lot of topics coming up right at this CAB. I think the best idea would be for us to discuss and triage at our strategic planning session. Go ahead, Mr. McDonald.
Thank you. Ryan is currently sick, so he sends his regards. So I'm speaking in his place. This is broken down by 2 quarters. So IT highlights for the first quarter, April to June. IT worked with Central Square as well as planning and subdivisions to set up e-apply dashboard and My City modules for use with development grant. As well, we worked with the GIS department to upgrade our ArcGIS system to 10.9. We also continue to work with Regroove, some contractors on the SharePoint records management project. As well, we continue to provide customer service and quick response time for the District of Sooke. Some key stats we have for this quarter: 585 issues resolved across the district, 100% network uptime, 100% server uptime, as well as 99.9 Office 365 uptime. That also includes patching and security updates. As well, 94,000 emails received to the district, 32,000 emails sent, 6,000 external calls received, and on our website, 17,000 unique page views. Our highlights for the July to September quarter. We continue to work with Regroove on the SharePoint records management project. It is quite a big project and it will take some time. I also want to shout out our records clerk, Christopher, has been a great help with this as well. Added another layer of backup to our current backup solutions. So we have better backups offsite just for any disaster. Started with our implementation of Windows Hello for Business and conditional access policies that'll allow us hopefully to go passwordless in the future. As well, we continue to provide service over this time and quick response times for the entire district. Key highlights for this quarter: 495 issues resolved, 99.9% network uptime, 100% server uptime, and 100% Office 365 uptime. As well, 92,000 emails received, 29,000 emails sent, 6,000 external calls received, and 14,000 unique page views on our website. Key activities during this time: general day-to-day support for end users, daily monitoring and maintenance of our on-premise server infrastructure, daily monitoring and maintenance of Office 365 environment that includes Azure, SharePoint, our email exchange system, OneDrive, Teams, and reviewing logs for suspicious activity. Daily monitoring and maintenance of our firewalls, switches, wireless access points on all sites, whether that's City Hall, parks offices, wastewater treatment plant, and all the lift stations. Daily monitoring and maintenance of our backups, update and maintain our DOS website and web services. Daily maintenance of our internal applications, that's Tempest, Diamond, Esri, which is our ArcGIS system, and Asset Finder. And daily monitoring and maintenance of our phone systems. And our reflections and next quarter focus. We continue to work on our records management project. As I mentioned before, it is quite a large one. Including with that is a rollout of our team site for each department for better collaboration within our office here. Work with subdivisions to roll out My City and e-apply for to allow developers to apply online for permits. Continue to work with GIS and help change the architecture on how GIS maps are accessed externally. And continue to make sure DOS networks and infrastructure are secure, which is probably our biggest one. And that is everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, have any questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Right on. So just moving along to the GIS highlights for the second quarter, so April to June. So the GIS department created the home ignition zone maps for the fire department. This is a Fire Smart initiative that we've been working on. We've got our first handful of requests. So these are by request only. It's a map that represents a series of buffers surrounding a property, and it shows in these buffers what kind of debris to clear and kind of have removed from the property. And it's really helpful for residents that are more in rural areas that are away from areas where you might have a faster response time. We performed an analysis on district properties connected to septic for the wastewater treatment plant and that staff. Upgraded several GIS systems, which include portals, spatial database engines, Asset Finder, and GIS servers. So just doing a mass upgrade of our systems to make sure we're up to date on all of our GIS systems. And this last initiative, we created a Wanda Fuca tourism area map, which highlights Sooke and several neighboring municipalities. So that's the map that you see to the right of this slide here. This map is also going to be in partnership with the First Nations communities highlighted along this corridor, and it'll highlight parks, landmarks, and so on and so forth. So the idea of this new tourism area is to promote economic, social, and cultural development in a sustainable way. So we've got our quarter two statistics. Internal referrals. So the GIS department responded to 105 tasks total, 89 of which were building permits, 7 from engineering, and 9 from planning. We processed 8 legal plans, drew 13 parcels, and addressed 42 residences. Sewer mains drawn was 0, and as was sidewalks and trails. So you'll see something similar in quarter 3 as well. And that's just simply because the turnover for construction is typically going to be in the last quarter as subdivision development as well as capital projects wrap up. So you should see an influx in those categories in quarter 4. And this is just digitization. It says not to do with the installation of these assets. As well, we digitized 0.5 kilometer or 49 culverts worth of storm mains, and that's getting caught up on a series of inspections and field work done in the summer of 2022. Moving along to quarter 3. So the GIS department created a walk and roll map for Poye Elementary School. So as I'm sure you've heard, there was congestion kind of up in that quadrant near Poye. So in working with Christina, we created these walk and roll maps that shows how easy it is and how safe it can be to walk to Poye from a series of drop-off points. So it shows connectivity, and as well, it's a good initiative to have kids walking together and kind of decongest that area as well. The GIS department working with IT tested distributed collaboration, as Mikey said, to work on displaying our GIS data externally and safely as well. This next point's interesting. We amended the Sooke and District of Sooke boundary. So district boundary adjustments are few and far between. So I just wanted to show what happened here. It seems that across BC, a bunch of First Nation boundaries have been amended where the MOTI right of way slices through them. And as the BC government is the jurisdiction on boundaries and such, our data just reflects what is in the province's data set there. As well, much like with finance leading up to tax cutoff is a busy time for our department as well. So we ensure that the land information system is up to date. And that includes ensuring that property owners are all attached to their respective properties with the proper information. Quarter 3 highlights. 70 tasks completed for internal referrals. So we responded to 57 building permits, 6 engineering referrals, and 7 planning referrals. We processed 13 legal plans, which drew 14 parcels. 11 new addresses assigned, and again, 0 for storm, sidewalk, and sewer mains. However, we digitized a number of trees as we're getting, again, caught up on field work and inspections that were performed in 2022. So next quarter, we are aiming to continue our migration from ArcMap to ArcGIS Pro, which is the newest and latest and greatest GIS software. Assess our GIS data sets against NINA NG 911 standards. So NG 911 is the new kind of next generation of 911, which is going to be coming online in the next few years. And this uses more of a geographical approach rather than your typical landline to receiver approach as before. We're going to be receiving a new orthophotography. That'll be happening in November. So once we receive that, that'll be integrated into all of our corporate mapping software, which includes our external mapping. So you'll be able to see that online. And lastly, digitize assets from subdivision capital projects in preparation for the 2023 tangible capital assets reporting. So that's when you'll see the influx of assets being digitized through the GIS department. And that's everything for the GIS department and Finance GIS IT's quarterly report presentation. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Does council have any questions? Councillor St. Pierre.
Help me out. Orthophotography. What does it mean?
Beg your pardon?
Sorry, going backward one slide.
Oh, what's it mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's our aerial photo. So
Okay. Well,
yeah,
why'd you just say that?
I wanted to sound fancy. Yeah.
Go ahead, Councillor Raymond.
So thanks for that report. I'm curious on, speaking of the layers on the mapping, what would your ideal next layer to be added to this list be?
Yeah, I would like to externalize engineering layers.
Engineering layers.
Yeah, engineering would be excellent. It in having that data externalized, it would minimize the amount of phone calls that we receive about where is my catch basin that's flooded in front of my place, or where is my AC, or as well as from engineers asking if there is sewer storm fronting a certain property. So it's helpful for the development community. It's helpful for us and our residents too. So engineering layers would be excellent.
And is that a feasible project or a rainy day for funding?
Yep, absolutely. Yep. Yeah, we have the data to do it and we have the capabilities in-house to do it as well. So we just need the initiative or the green light from someone, and then we can definitely make that happen.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Lajeunesse.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that similar question. How much of this will be available to the public, and also with the tourist information portion? I think that would be extremely useful for tourism promotion, etc. And the other thing that that I'm reminded of, I attended a session at UBCM where Kelowna and Microsoft presented their findings on their development approvals grant. And they described some of the things that they had worked toward with their AI that they're developing. They had a couple of sort of smaller things that they had. One was their staff time. A lot of their staff time was taken up by people phoning in asking when the snowplow was coming along to their street. And so they've put GPS monitors on all of their snowplows, and they can pinpoint through using AI. So no staff time once you train the system, that they could predict within minutes when snowplows are going to arrive. So that was one thing that I thought was pretty cool. Not as relevant here, but the other thing is for the development approvals, when you train the system with all of your zoning and OCP and all of that stuff, that people can very quickly go in and submit development applications, or if they want to put a swimming pool or a garage or something on their property, they can sketch it in and get immediate feedback on whether it's okay, whether it needs to move, what the setbacks are, etc. And the cool thing about this is that because it was through a UBCM grant, they feel that it's their duty to share it with all municipalities free of charge. And so they encouraged all municipalities' IT departments to get in touch with their IT department, and they are willing to share that beginning in November. So you might want to look into that as well.
Yeah, that sounds very interesting. Thank you for your notes there. So a couple things in terms of layers. I'm very pro for opening up data and displaying what the district has. So kind of the sky's the limit with what we can represent in our mapping software externally. And yes, even for open data as well. So having our residents and typical developers and contractors have the ability to go into our data sets and pull what they need so they can perform their own analysis and things and their own mapping. All of that is absolutely doable. And then in terms of the development grant, I believe that is something that we are working towards, as Mikey touched on. IT and Ryan is working on My City that will hopefully be rolling out in 2024. So yeah, I'm sure Mikey and Ryan have it would be great to reach out to Kelowna and have that connection and learn from them as to how they train their AI and their systems. So thank you for bringing that up.
Excellent.
Okay, if there's no other questions, looking for a mover that the committee of the whole recommend council receive the financial services 2023 second and third quarter report for information. Moved by Councillor Bateman, and we're in the committee of the whole, so we don't need a second. I'll call the question. No. All those in favor? Unanimous. Okay, I don't think we have any new business. So we will go to the Rise and Report. That the committee. That the committee of the whole Rise and Report. Nothing? Okay. So we can do it in just one. Okay. That the committee of the whole Rise and Report and receive the reports for information. Councillor St. Pierre, all those in favor? Unanimous. That council adjourned the October 16th, 2023 special meeting at 2:58 p.m. Moved by Councillor Lajeunesse. Councillor St. Pierre, all those in favor?